Give me 15 minutes and you will never trust the food industry ever again. Everything you've been taught at school, everything you see online, everything the media promotes is all wrong. And it's not wrong by accident, it's wrong on purpose. This is the reason why men in society are subdued. Why most men walk around in a depressed, agitated state. Why you come home from work feeling so exhausted that you can't even play with your kids, that your wife is left disappointed in the bedroom, right? That you don't have the energy to go out and achieve big things, while you're dependent on medication. This is no accident, and it all stems from what we're putting in our body, which comes from what we're told about the food. Because the food industry is the most manipulated out of every industry, alongside pharmaceuticals and health, because they're all linked. And I'm going to explain to you why. Come the end of this, you're not going to want to trust anything that is out there or promoted by the mainstream. First of all, I'm going to lead by an example. In the 1950s, there was a real case, and you can look this up, where the sugar industry paid off scientists to defer the blame towards saturated fat. They paid them the equivalent of about $50,000, which is nothing. And these scientists, who are, the ones pushing out the mainstream info, the ones who can't be bought, the ones with no agenda, took this £50,000 payout and basically put out the message that saturated fat is the enemy. And to this day, that is still so prevalent. How often do you see saturated fat is wrong, saturated fat is bad, don't eat too much saturated fat? You see it everywhere. It's constant. And the worst part is that saturated fat is great for you. So it started with things like that, right? And even though it's exposed, even though it's public knowledge, you can go and look this up. It's not a random little conspiracy that might or may not have happened. It happened. It's just become forgotten. And that payout is still living today in the advice that we follow, right? Let's start with something else. When you go to the shop, let's talk about propaganda, right? You go to the shop, or you look in, you're going around the advertisement. What food is heavily advertised? What is the most colourful? What is the stuff that screams buy me? It's always the junk food, right? And ironically, the food that is heavily promoted is the food that even the mainstream acknowledges as bad. The sweets, the junk, the fast food. Yet they still heavily promote it. Meanwhile, even the food they say is healthy, which we will get into, is bland, boring. The salads, the vegetables, the lean meats, boring. No advertising whatsoever, no packaging. And they could advertise. There's nothing stopping these companies from advertising. In fact, they would probably benefit from advertising. More people would buy their stuff. But they don't. Why? Because of what they want you to consume. Even if they try and make out that, oh, you shouldn't eat too much of this, but we're still going to heavily advertise it. It's all done on purpose. And the next thing is the food pyramid. How many of you have seen the food pyramid? I'm not talking about RFK's one, or the one released in America, which is the new one, which is actually quite good. I'm talking about your bog standard food pyramid that you probably learned at biology in school. You see it's referred to by a lot of people anyway. And it's basically at the bottom of the pyramid, you've got starchy carbs, bread, pasta, grains. And then the next level, you've got cruciferous vegetables, leafy greens. Then you've got lean meats, right? Chicken, pork, turkey. And at the very top, right, the stuff that you're meant to limit the most, you've got dairy. But then you've also got, the processed food that you're allowed to have. That food pyramid is the sole reason why so many people have no idea what to eat. It's the thing that causes diabetes, the thing that causes low testosterone, inflammation, and for men to be weak, right? Because that's what low testosterone leads to. Why? Bread, rice, grains, pasta, flour is highly refined. It's nothing like what our ancestors would have eaten. They try and say, well, our ancestors lived off bread. The bread they had was a superfood. The bread now is so refined and so hard to digest that you would actually be better off eating pure sugar. And that's not an exaggeration, right? And the worst part is people think it's healthy because of the food pyramid. So they stack up 60-70% of their dinners with this, pasta and sandwiches during the day. And they end up with diabetes and becoming insulin resistant. And the next thing is the cruciferous vegetables they tell you to eat so much of, which just inflame your gut, similar to the grains. Anything that inflames your gut will directly cause brain fog. It will cause that feeling when you try to get stuff done and you just can't get anything done. You cannot concentrate. Your brain is all over the place, and then you get stressed, and then you just can't, there's no clarity. And when you do the opposite of that, guess what you do? You have clarity. But they don't want the society of people that have that, because that's hard to control. You know, there's certain vegetables you can eat, right? Root vegetables are great. You know, turnips, onions, those kinds of things, carrots, they grow underground. They react differently in your body, but they're not going to tell you to eat that stuff. They're going to say, eat your leafy greens, the inflammatory stuff. And then the meat, they're telling you to eat chicken, pork, turkey, lean meats, right? No fat on them, no really good nutrients in them, right? And also these are the animals that eat the most crap, the most soy, the most grains, and therefore that affects the quality of the meat. You know, whereas the real meat you should be eating, the beef, the lamb, the goat, come from these ruminant animals that digest food so much better and don't have as many toxins in their system, right? And also because they're in the UK, they're usually 90% grass-fed, but they'll tell you to avoid that because of saturated fat, once again leading to the first payout, you know, the first big scandal that we all heard about. And there's so many more of these scandals, right? Have you heard about McDonald's? 2% human DNA in the burgers, as well as rodent DNA. That gets brushed under the carpet as nothing, right? Oh, it was sweat from the workers. Do you know how much 2% of a burger is? If you get a burger, right, let's like imagine it like a pie chart. Put an image here. 2% of that is a big chunk. That's not sweat or like, you know, just the DNA coming from them handling the meat. That is a significant portion of that burger. And people are so dumb, they will just believe that and think, yeah, it's fine, let's continue to eat the McDonald's. Now, why they're putting human DNA in the McDonald's burgers, I don't know. It's a sickening subject. It's down to, I think, a mass ritual of Satanism, of cannibalism, because you look at the symbols on the food industry, right? Let's get into this. The Masonic symbols on the McDonald's arches represents the Arch of Baal. You've got the Oreo symbol, which has multiple satanic symbols on the actual biscuits themselves. The circle, the infinity symbol with the two crosses above it. The Monster Energy drink, that claw, right? The claws that you see on Monster Energy, that's 666 in Hebrew. Okay? How many more coincidences do you need to see from these satanic companies, which ironically have the worst ingredients, the most junk food, right? It's all a big scam. The food industry is evil. Like truly evil. And it is designed like this on purpose, because a society full of men that are strong, independent, they have good health, they're not in and out of the hospital, they're not in this depressed, agitated state, are very hard to control. They want the good things for their life, they're ambitious, they won't put up with bullshit. And when that happens, you know, what are the elites going to do? They don't want that. They want the people at the bottom to be suckers. They always have from the start of time. You know, the kings and queens would have the best stuff and the peasants would be given the worst stuff. And that's no different now. But now there's propaganda, now there's media, now there's scientists that will be accepting paychecks or doing whoever tells them, you know, what to do. That is a real thing. And you're an idiot if you don't think that, because one, there's literal proof of it happening, like the scandal at the beginning. And also, it makes sense. It all makes sense. It doesn't make sense for them to tell you what is best for you. And ironically, if that was the case, like why are all the health markers worse in every category? Since this new advice has come, since the food pyramid and everything else has come, every category of health is worse. Cancer, diabetes, being overweight, low testosterone, you know, depression, like divorce rates, everything is worse. They can't just blame it on, oh, more people are fat. It's because of all this shit that's going in the body. And when you look at the food industry, the opposite is true. Yeah, they tell you to avoid saturated fat, but saturated fat is what's needed to produce high testosterone, to have stable cells within your body and for your body to function properly, right? When you eat lots of saturated fat, you have clear thinking, you have high energy, you will have high testosterone, high sex drive. When you cut out all the bullshit, you know, the stuff they tell you is heart healthy, like the seed oils, you don't have as much oxidation in your body, so your body functions better. Everything they tell you is wrong. It's not a coincidence that they promote the worst stuff and then keep on like demonizing the stuff that's actually good for you. And then the only things they do demonize are the stuff that's so obviously bad that it makes them look good. You know, oh yeah, don't eat too much fast food. We all know that, right? We have to have a common enemy somewhere. So of course they're going to do that. But yet, ironically, it's the most advertised. It's the stuff that is so bright in colours and made really easy to buy. And even the junk that's disguised as health foods, like the protein bars and the protein shakes with high protein or good for your gut written on it. You think that's a coincidence? It's funny how they don't put high protein on a steak, right? Which is actually high protein and has good amino acids and everything else. They don't do that because it would mean people are buying it and people are living off it. Like, you cannot trust these people and this industry. It is the most, highly manipulated industry, even more so than the pharmaceuticals, because the food industry is highly manipulated. You eat that shit, you end up unhealthy, you go to the pharmaceutical industry, you buy their stuff, and it keeps you in that loop, right? Ironically, the pharmaceuticals cause horrible side effects, which then lead to more pharmaceuticals. And then the doctors are telling you to follow the mainstream guidelines. Like, it keeps you in that loop. Oh, and then they sell you TRT. And now you're as slave-minded as you get. You've got all these chemicals in your body. You're consuming all this fluoride, which calcifies what's known as your pineal gland, which is the thing that allows you to spiritually connect to the world and have bigger thoughts and be more free thinking. It literally makes you more brainwashed, right? Like, how much more evidence do you need to see? The food industry is demonic, it's satanic, it's evil, and you should not trust them.